Welcome to the Explainer. So, get this according to industry estimates, up to 70% of digital transformation and automation projects actually fail to hit their goals. 70%. Today, we're tackling something pretty much every modern organization is wrestling with right now. We're looking at the massive hype surrounding automation and comparing it to the incredibly complex and honestly often messy reality of executing it. Look, everybody wants the magic button that instantly makes their business faster and more efficient, right? But as we'll see from the source material today, pushing that button without a rock-solid plan usually creates a whole lot more problems than it solves. So let's dive in and see how we can bridge that gap between expectation and reality. Here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with the automation reality check, look at 6 common pitfalls, talk about overcoming employee resistance, dive into the automation success funnel, and wrap up with continuous improvement strategies. All right, part 1, the automation reality check, setting the stage. Now, we all naturally crave the efficiency and cost savings that automation promises, but taking those first few steps, man, it is fraught with missteps. And these challenges, they rarely just happen in a vacuum. It's really more of a ripple effect. Imagine dropping a stone in a pond. A single drop, one foundational misstep, creates these expanding waves that disrupt your entire organizational ecosystem. Whether it's a lack of a clear business case causing a ripple that hits employee resistance, or an integration issue that eventually crashes into your scalability down the line, it's all completely connected. You just cannot look at these challenges in isolation because they echo throughout the entire business. Moving right along to part 2, 6 common automation pitfalls, navigating the traps. Okay, the very first major trap here is what the source material calls misguided automation. Basically, this is the super common habit of automating simply for the sake of automating. I mean, it sounds proactive, doesn't it? But actually doing this without a specific business outcome in mind just leads to wasted resources. It's like, it's like automating a broken customer service process. You aren't solving the root problem, you're just ending up frustrating your customers way faster. You absolutely have to have specific goals and measurable outcomes to ensure the effort is actually worthwhile. Honestly, if you can't measure the success, you shouldn't be automating it in the first place. Next up, we hit a literal technical headache, legacy integration. So you've bought all the shiny new automation tools, right? But then you realize they fundamentally struggle to connect with your old existing legacy systems. And this is not a quick fix. Let's be real. Trying to get a cutting-edge AI tool to talk to a 20-year-old database is a seriously heavy lift. Bridging these compatibility gaps almost always requires dedicated middleware or custom APIs, and that is something a lot of businesses completely underestimate when they're drawing up those initial plans and budgets. Now, I want to compare 2 totally different hurdles you're going to face at completely different stages of your timeline. On the front end, you've got the challenge of building a solid business case. You have to clearly communicate the benefits, the costs, the strict ROI just to get the project off the ground and get the stakeholders on board. But then, on the back end, long after approval, you're dealing with scalability issues. The solutions actually have to adapt to growing business needs. That means designing flexible, modular workflows right from day one. So you're constantly balancing this tension between proving upfront value and guaranteeing your long-term flexibility. Section 3, overcoming employee resistance, or, the human element. So we've talked about the technical stuff, the strategic stuff, but now we really need to pivot to what is arguably the most critical and, honestly, most overlooked challenge in any transformation: the people. The actual human beings who have to use these new systems. Which brings us to a fundamental question. Why do automation projects face such intense pushback from staff? We get so obsessed with the software and the ROI that we're genuinely shocked when the workforce doesn't exactly throw a parade for the new automated workflows. Let's unpack the core drivers behind this. So what's actually driving this resistance? Well, the number one driver for sure is a deep-seated fear among employees regarding their job security. When people hear automation, they usually hear replacement, and that fear leads directly to pushback, especially from staff who feel totally out of the loop. The antidotes here are crystal clear: transparent communication and comprehensive training. And listen, these aren't just fluffy HR buzzwords, okay? They are essential requirements. They are literally the only true way to combat that fear and ensure a smooth, successful adoption across your team. All right, Section 4, the automation success funnel, also known as the playbook. Okay, we've spent plenty of time diagnosing all the problems and pain points. Now let's shift our narrative over to the solution. We're going to introduce a practical playbook based on all these lessons learned. Because successful automation isn't just a switch you flip. It is a deliberate, filtered process.
Think of it like a funnel. You start super wide at the top with project initiation, but then you have to carefully pass through several distinct narrowing layers of strategy before you ever actually hit successful implementation down at the bottom.
To actually achieve that success, an idea needs to pass through 6 specific filters. 1. Prioritize processes. 2. Define objectives. 3. Manage change. 4. Start small. 5. Involve stakeholders. And finally, 6. Continuous improvement. Basically, if an idea or a proposed workflow can't survive even one of these layers, it simply isn't ready for implementation.
Let's zoom in on the very top of that funnel, steps 1 and 2. The cardinal rule here is pretty simple. Not all processes are suitable for automation. You really must target high-volume repetitive tasks. Why? Because those are the areas where you recover the most human hours, which offers the most significant ROI. And once you've picked the right targets, you absolutely have to define clear success criteria up front. That's how you measure effectiveness. It ensures your project is perfectly aligned with your core business goals right from the starting line.
Moving down into the middle of the funnel, steps 3 and 4 are all about momentum and that human transition we just talked about. You've got to prepare the entire organization for change by tackling those employee concerns head on. And, strategically, you have to start small. Don't boil the ocean. Tackle the less complex processes first. The whole point here is to rack up some quick wins, demonstrate success, and build up that vital organizational confidence before you ever attempt to scale up to massive complex workflows.
And finally, Section 5, Continuous Improvement Strategies, the ongoing journey.
This brings us to the final, ongoing phase of the whole automation lifecycle. And this relies heavily on those early stakeholders and a mindset of constant, relentless refinement. Seriously, if you only take away one single thing from this entire explainer, make it this. Automation is not a set-it-and-forget-it solution. It's so incredibly tempting to think the hard work ends on launch day. But emphatically, the reality is that ongoing monitoring is an absolute non-negotiable requirement if you want long-term success.
So what does that continuous improvement actually look like in the real world? Well, it means viewing these projects as ongoing initiatives, not just boxes you checked off. You must regularly review your automated processes and tweak the systems so they maintain their efficiency over time. I mean, the business environment is never static, right? So your automation shouldn't be either. You have to continually adapt these workflows to tackle new business challenges head-on as they arise. So, I'm going to leave you with this question to chew on. Are you truly ready to manage your automation as a continuous journey, or are you really just automating for the sake of it? I challenge you to take a hard look at your own organizational objectives. Use the playbook, evaluate your processes, and make absolutely sure your team is aligned before you write your next line of automation code. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning out there.